What is going on, trainers? Drifblim here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're looking at an Ultra League remix team. Although this team is also valid in the regular Ultra League, it would still have good play, it would still perform pretty well. Using this team, I've climbed over 200 points from the middle of the 2200s to almost 2500. We're at the high 2400s right now. But be warned, this is an expensive team. This involves a 100% IV level 50 Galarian Stunfisk that we were lucky enough to hatch during the last event where Galarian Stunfisk's shiny was released. And we also have a 100% Drifblim and a 100% Scrafty. Now, Drifblim and Scrafty do not have to be 100% IVs, but the more PvP spread their IVs are, the more XL they have to be. Now, these are the only two versions of these Pokemon I currently have built. I'm working on an XL Scrafty and an XL Drifblim with PvP IV spreads, but it works fine if you have the Hundo, which is the cheapest version of those two Pokemon to build because you don't have to power them up as far. They still have very, very good play, but if you do have XL variants where are closer to level 50, they will put in a lot of work and have a lot more bulk. Now, I'm going to apologise in advance. I've been in at the dentist, my mouth is quite sore, so it's actually quite painful to speak at the minute. So if my speaking is a little off in this video, that's why, and it should be fine probably by the next video we put out for you guys. Now, having said that, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Become an absolute legend today. It's free, and let's take a quick look at the team. So as we've said, we've got XL Drifblim on the lead, and this is 100% Drifblim. So as we said, the lower attack you get, the better performance you'll get out of it. And it's running Hex, Icy Wind, and Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is a fantastic nuke. Icy Wind gives good coverage against most other things, and it gives that debuff. On the safe swap, we've got Galarian Stunfisk, which is also 100% IV, maxed out to level 50. It's got Mud Shot, Earthquake, and Rock Slide. You could probably run Flash Cannon if you're feeling really spicy, but honestly, the coverage you get from Earthquake and Rock Slide is immense. It is such a good moveset. We all know Galarian Stunfisk is broken strong, so I recommend you go with the standard moveset, Earthquake and Rock Slide. And then also in the back, which could also be on the safe swap position, but is not as safe a swap as Galarian Stunfisk, and that is Scrafty, running Counter, Power Up Punch, and Foul Play. You can opt for Acid Spray instead of Power Up Punch if you want, but I think you're better off with the Power Up Punch and amping up Scrafty's damage. If you're looking for a non-XL variant Ultra League team, I did make a video on one a couple of weeks ago. That's a very, very strong team that put in a lot of work for me while I was at Legend Rank last season at the very end. And I'll put a link to that video down in the description if you're not looking to spend all the XL candy maxing out a Pokemon to level 50, or maybe you're not level 40 yet and you can't actually get XL Pokemon, in which case that team might be for you. We've also been doing pretty well on the regional legendaries at the minute, the Lake Trio. We've currently managed to get Mesprit, which is my local one. I'm in the UK, and I've managed to get a shiny Azelf as well. I'm just hoping to get lucky with that Uxie at some point over the next couple of weeks. Hoping to find some invites from that region and see if we can get lucky. We also picked up a very nice PvP IV spread shiny Baltoy, so at some point we might try and do something with Claydol if we're feeling a little spicy. I haven't actually had a proper look at Claydol's movesets and to understand what kind of play it could have, but we might show it off for you guys and see what kind of work it can put in. With all of that said and done, let's jump into some battles and take a look at some gameplay utilising this team. And the first lead we pull is Drapion. Now, Drapion's a bit of an awkward matchup for Drifblim, but most Drapions are going to be running Poison Jab as their fast move, which Drifblim is massively resisting, and Drifblim's already very, very bulky. You can see it's doing pretty much nothing, but Drapion has access to Crunch, which is going to hit quite hard on Drifblim, and also Drapion is resisting your Ghost moves. This is very much a battle of attrition, but also as you start getting those Icy Wind debuffs off, these Crunches are going to hit for less and less damage, putting you in a very advantageous position over time. You see, when it's already debuffed, it does still already hit for around 50% of your health. Obviously, if you have a bulkier Drifblim with a more PvP IV spread, you can probably comfortably take 2 Crunches, but with it being the Hundo, you're kind of struggling a little more for that. We hoped we could survive that Crunch, but we can't. And since we've already gone down a shield, we don't want to go down 2. So we decided we're going to bring in Galarian Stunfisk and farm this thing down. We weren't sure if they'd have Aqua Tail or not, which would have been doing a decent chunk of damage to us, but also they are double debuffed at this point, and we figured they might actually have Sludge Bomb, because Sludge Bomb is a very, very viable move to run in the Ultra League. So we complete the farm down, and we decide we're just going to throw the Rock Slide at this thing that comes in. Yeah, it's a Dragalge, and the Earthquake would do absolutely massive damage. Now, they actually catch the Earthquake when we decide to throw, which is brilliant on their part, but it's a Alolan Ninetails, which if we could have just thrown 2 Rock Slides and done massive damage here. And because it's not a Charm Alolan Ninetails, we're actually going to bring Scrafty in, because we feel like Scrafty's got a little bit more play here and can ramp up its damage in advance. I think we're going to shield this in case it's a Dazzling Gleam, because Dazzling Gleam would... No, we're going to let it go. We're feeling it's a Dazzling Gleam. Boom. Good lord. Okay, we're putting it all on Galarian Stunfisk. We want to see how much work this thing can do. It's our new toy. We've just built it. I think we're going to let this go, assuming it's a weather... No, we'll shield it up. Okay. Well, I think the better play might have been to shield the Dazzling Gleam with Scrafty, attempt to farm it down, and then put in work with both Scrafty and Galarian Stunfisk against the Dragalge. We're going to try and get a shield here with this Rock Slide, and then go for the Earthquake, which I don't think would one-shot, and we don't actually get it off anyway. They're going to get a move off first, and they're going to take us out. That's going to be a good game. Now, we were in a fairly decent position in that match, but them catching an Earthquake and also us not shielding the Dazzling Gleam put us on a very, very disadvantageous situation towards the end of that game. So second matchup, we've got an Abomasnow lead. Now, both of our Pokemon in the back deal with Abomasnow a lot better than Drifblim does, so we're going to swap into Galarian Stunfisk. It's a better safe swap in general, and also Scrafty is going to tear through that Abomasnow later on a little bit easier. And we actually bait out a Toxicroak, which is pretty nice because we can get a shield out of them with this Earthquake. If they don't shield this, it'll do massive damage. We do get the shield, and it doesn't matter if they farm us down, because Drifblim just resists everything that Toxicroak can throw. It doesn't matter if it's got Mud Bomb, Dynamic Punch, Sludge Bomb. We resist it all. See, the Sludge Bomb does a decent chunk of damage, but also it's not very threatening. We can even take another one. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to throw here. We figure they were just about to get to another Sludge Bomb, so we'll throw before they get it off, rather than taking another one. We've got a little bit of excess energy there ready, hopefully to maybe get to a Shadow Ball against Abomasnow if we need to in the end game. We swap out to Scrafty, and we pull out a Mew. And this is a pretty good situation, except that we're shielding Psyshocks, but also I did not expect Mew to be running Psyshock. I was a little scared of Wild Charge, to be honest, or even maybe a Fairy Charge move. Mew is an absolute box of tricks. You never know what it's going to be throwing at you. We figured this might be worth shielding as well. It's another Psyshock, so actually pretty much a waste of both our shields there. But also, like I said, with Mew, you don't know. If it's just going to throw a nuke and one-shot you, that's terrifying. Now, we're going to be able to farm down the Mew entirely. We've ramped up our attack, and we're going to be able to put some serious work in here. It's not worth throwing the power-up punch. We want chunks of damage. We want to either get this last shield or do big damage. And I think now, because the Abomasnow is so low, this power-up punch is going to pretty much force them to shield, which puts us in a good position to get to an Icy Wind to finish them off with Drifblim. It's kind of forcing their hand a little bit here. They decide not to shield it, and we can just farm them down, and that's a good game. Scrafty is a really strong choice in the back. As long as you don't get walled by a Fairy or something like that, the amount of work Scrafty can put in with some shields and getting some power-up punches off is crazy. Okay, next matchup, Ferrothorn Lead. This is pretty good, as long as they don't have Thunder, and it looks like they don't because they swap out straight away into a Politoed. And this is brilliant because we'd love to bait this out, because this thing, we want to keep this away from Galarian Stunfisk. Politoed shuts down Galarian Stunfisk very, very well. It's probably one of the best answers to Galarian Stunfisk in the Ultra League. We're just going to go straight for a Shadow Ball, hit them for good damage, and swap in Scrafty, and now we can farm down entirely and not have to worry about shielding, because even if they throw an Earthquake or a Blizzard, we can survive it. And if they're throwing Weather Balls like they are here, we can just take these and counter down entirely, and then we'll be able to keep Drifblim locked onto the Ferrothorn, and then see what they've got in the back to sweep. The opponent actually surrenders because they've lost switch advantage, and I guess they don't have an answer for Drifblim. I don't know, but GG's. The great thing about both Scrafty and Drifblim is that they're awkwardly different typings, being Ghost and Flying and Fighting and Dark, means that they can be really tough to deal with if you don't have the right Pokemon. Now, here is an absolutely awful lead, and that is Mandibuzz. And Mandibuzz does very, very well against Drifblim. It's got Foul Play that hits for very, very solid damage. Yes, you can debuff them with the Icy Winds and they are super effective, but Mandibuzz is far too bulky and Icy Wind does not dish out enough damage to really threaten. So we actually tried to catch a Foul Play on Scrafty. Both Galarian Stunfisk and Scrafty actually do pretty well against Mandibuzz. Scrafty struggles if the Mandibuzz is running Air Slash rather than Snarl as a fast move, but if it is, then Drifblim has more play against it instead. Now with the Scrafty swap, we actually bait out an Alolan Ninetails. It's not a Charm Alolan Ninetails, which is very, very nice for us. They do build up for a Dazzling Gleam, and we do shield, and we shield a Weather Ball, which isn't ideal, but also you can see these counters are really starting to chip away at this Alolan Ninetails, and we're considering shielding this and trying to farm down. And we do shield the Dazzling Gleam, this means we can definitely farm down completely. And what you're going to see here is that if they bring back in the Mandibuzz, which they do, is how much work Scrafty can put in, because we've got enough health to survive one Aerial Ace. And they're going to have to throw two to take us out. They definitely can't farm us down. Those Snarls are double resisted. We're just going to keep amping up our damage and put all this pressure on for them to throw. We're not letting them get out of this matchup with much excess energy. We're going to shred them with this Scrafty. You see it's really starting to chip away. We're very, very low on health, but those Snarls are not going to take us out. For all this damage that Scrafty's doing, it's definitely been worth investing both shields. We did go down 2 shields, which is kind of nuts, but it's definitely paid off for the amount of work it's been able to put in there. We just got to hope that they don't have something in the back that can absolutely blitz our team with nukes now. I'm going to build up a lot of energy on Stunfisk before we throw this Rock Slide. We want to have as much energy as possible because they still have a shield that we've got to get through. Now they bring in a Greedent, and because it's their last Pokemon on the team, we swap straight to Drifblim. This is so we can debuff them, because if you're going to be debuffing them anyway and they can't clear that debuff, you want to debuff them earlier. So the Greedent's got to work much, much harder to take out the Galarian Stunfisk. We're going to get 2 Icy Winds off, which is really, really solid for us, because Greedent's quite scary. It's got quite versatile damage. The Bullet Seed can add up against water types. It's neutral to Stunfisk and it's low damage, but because it's so bulky and the matchups drag on so long, it can put in a lot of work. And the Crunch gives great coverage even in Open Ultra League against Giratinas and Cruselias. It's a very scary XL Pokemon to build for Ultra League. If you've got one, I recommend you build it. Now the timer's coming up and the health is pretty close between us, so we're just going to go straight for the Rock Slide, get that extra bit of chip damage, run the clock out. Because we've got more health, we should win this game. They do actually get a move off, so we CMP tied, but this should not put us lower than them on health, so it's going to be our match. GG. If you end up in situations near the end game where you've still got Drifblim left with some health, it is worth trying to debuff an opponent sooner rather than later. If they can't clear that debuff, it pays off in dividends. Now let's take a look at a Galarian Stunfisk lead. Now this is a weird matchup. Again, this matchup is dramatically improved for Drifblim if you have an XL variant with PvP IVs, because ours is probably the least bulky that a 2500 CP Drifblim can be in the Ultra League. I mean, you see the Rock Slides, it's not going to two-shot you. I think even if you don't debuff the Stunfisk, you can survive 2 Rock Slides and the Mud Shots, which means you can go straight for Shadow Ball, because 2 Shadow Balls from this Drifblim would KO this Stunfisk with the hexes. I think it does just do less than 50% if you do throw a Shadow Ball. We actually get a shield out of him, and I think we're going to let this go and bring in Scrafty and start farming this Stunfisk down. We've got a shield advantage, and all these Pokemon are very strong with shield advantage. Now they bring in a Defense Deoxys, swap out aggressively. They're happy to give up the switch that they fought for there. And Defense Deoxys it would look like it's very scary for our team because the counter damage is super effective to Scrafty and to Galarian Stunfisk, but Galarian Stunfisk is much, much, much bulkier in the Ultra League than it is in the Great League. So the counters, because they're not stab, they just do not add up enough. So Deoxys loses to Galarian Stunfisk in the Ultra League because none of its charge moves are threatening. You can just take them all day. They have to commit a lot of shields to actually flip that matchup. So I think if they shield twice, I think they can win against your Stunfisk, but you as Stunfisk don't need to shield because the charge moves aren't the damage, it's just the counters over time. We Earthquake their Galarian Stunfisk, get it straight out of there. They've got a Venusaur in the back and they actually surrender, which I think that Venusaur had a lot more play than they realised. They could have given us a good run there because I think both Stunfisk and Scrafty may have been in Frenzy Plant range. And yeah, we had, I think we had at least a shield left there, but still, it could have done some work and threatened us quite heavily there. But all the same, GG's. So we're able to take a 4-1 in that first set of battles, jumping straight into the second set, and we pull a Jellicent lead. And Jellicent is one of the most common leads you're probably going to see in the higher rankings of Ultra League. It's the highest rated lead on PV Poke. It's very, very strong. It's very, very versatile in what it can do. And what I found is a lot of Jellicents like to swap out of the matchup with Drifblim. I think they're a little scared of the Shadow Ball, even though they have Shadow Ball and or Ice Beam to threaten you back. But some will stick around, and because that one built up so much energy, we figured it was worth trying to catch on Scrafty since we'd landed the Shadow Ball ourselves. We didn't want to invest a shield and get Bubble Beam baited. So we catch on Scrafty and they bring in a Nidoqueen. And this is very, very good because Nidoqueen, again, is another Pokemon that really struggles to deal with Drifblim. So we don't mind giving up this matchup, letting Scrafty go down, and then letting Drifblim get rid of this Nidoqueen, and then hopefully Galarian Stunfisk can deal with whatever's in the back. Now, a lot of the time, Jellicent is people's only answer to a Galarian Stunfisk. The fact that it's on lead implies that their back Pokemon might struggle with Galarian Stunfisk, but they've actually got a Machamp that they bring out here to our Drifblim, and this is scary. Because Shadow Machamp will absolutely shred through a Galarian Stunfisk. We're very lucky they've chosen to bring that out and not the Jellicent. The Jellicent was very, very low, but I do think it had some energy that they could have either debuffed or shield baited us with. They do bait us with a Cross Chop, but we're going to get to another Icy Wind, and this will take out the Machamp if they don't shield. The one advantage of being against this thing is that it's very squishy. You don't have to worry about going for the Shadow Balls. They try to swap in Jellicent, and we hit them with that Hex and farm them down. They choose to surrender, and that's going to be a good game. So we didn't even need Galarian Stunfisk in that match, but also it was going to struggle being stuck between a Jellicent and a Machamp at the end there. Now, jumping into the next matchup, and we pull another Abomasnow lead. As you can see, Ultra League Remix it's just XL Pokemon everywhere. We swap out into Stunfisk and we pull out a Swampert, and this is, obviously Swampert does very, very well against Galarian Stunfisk. We can do good damage with the Earthquake, but we do need to land a second one to KO them, or we'd have to get a crap load of Mud Shots and a Rock Slide off. We're just going to let this go through. It's an Earthquake, does big damage. We're going to get this Rock Slide off. We wanted to try and make it to the Earthquake, but we figured we'd get farmed down before we got there. We actually get a shield out of them, which is really nice for us. I think the Swampert's better choice in that matchup is to go for 2 Hydro Cannons. I think it's a similar energy cost to Earthquake, but it will take out the Stunfisk rather than the Earthquake not quite one-shotting. Now we're going to choose to take all this energy on Drifblim. We're just going to take those Hydro Cannons and hope that Scrafty can sweep the end game, because we know that Drifblim is still going to be stuck against that Abomasnow, which it's not going to have loads of play against, so we're just hoping Scrafty can sweep. We swap Scrafty in once they dumped all their energy to get ahead on energy ourselves, and they've actually got a Talonflame in the back, and this is kind of scary. We were up a shield, we shield a Flame Charge, which would have done reasonable damage. It's still a worthwhile shield, even if it's not a Brave Bird. It probably wasn't going to be a Brave Bird because they just swapped into it aggressively against our Scrafty, but still, we shield the second Flame Charge, and again that would have done big damage, and I think we're just going to be able to get to this foul play just before they get to another move and take them out, and hopefully Scrafty's going to be able to sweep. It's got a lot of work to do, and does that Abomasnow still got all of its health? It probably does. We bring in Swampert and we catch on Drifblim. So Scrafty's now got some energy, it's got a bit of health, it's going to be against the Abomasnow. Look at that, it's got way too much health. There's no way we can take this out. Now they're going to get to a move. I think we would have needed a power-up punch and then a foul play and then a few counters. We're not going to be able to take that win. It's a good game all the same. A very tough lead and a tough counter swap for our team there to deal with, and it was just too much. Not that much you can do against an Ice lead and a Water punish to Stunfisk. In this matchup we get an Alolan Ninetails lead, and we swap straight into Scrafty as our safe swap, because as we've seen, Scrafty can put a lot of work in over time, especially if you can shield a Dazzling Gleam. Now, really we were a bit foolish because we swapped blindly at the first second of the game. We should have thrown one Hex on Drifblim just to see if it was a Charm Alolan Ninetails, because if it was a Charm Alolan Ninetails, we'd have been obliterated very, very quickly with Scrafty. And if it is a Charm Alolan Ninetails, Drifblim can put a lot of work in. Now we're shielding Weather Balls, they've got both shields out of us, and now they're going to swap into a Jellicent, and this is crazy because Jellicent is going to struggle to handle Scrafty. Look at how much damage that Foul Play does. Now we've amped up our damage, absolutely monumental. We're going to go ahead and throw another one straight away. It's going to get a shield, or just wipe this Jellicent out. They don't shield, Jellicent gets completely annihilated there. Scrafty's still got more than half its health. They do have 2 shields to our 0. The Ninetales comes back in, and hopefully, I mean, this is a Dazzling Gleam, it's still fine because the Ninetales is now dealt with. It's just a Weather Ball, so Scrafty's still going. It's wiping out this team. The opponent surrenders. GG. Scrafty on an absolute rampage in that game, taking out the Ninetales, taking out the Jellicent. Absolutely fantastic. God knows what they had in the back, but glad we were able to handle it. Now this is a spicy one, Typhlosion. Typhlosion is a very strong choice in the Ultra League remix. It just has to watch out for Jellicent really, but even then it can put in good work because it has access to Solar Beam. It can either run Incinerate or Shadow Claw as a fast move. They're both very, very strong fast moves. This one's running Shadow Claw, and you can see it's absolutely shredding our Drifblim. We get a shield out of them, and we're actually going to let Drifblim go down and bring in Scrafty and start wearing this thing down. We're a little bad at counting because it is 7 Shadow Claws for a Blast Burn. We didn't realise that, but it's also 7 for the Foul Play. So we should have not thrown this. Really, we should have actually built up and then carried on building up some more energy before throwing after they did. But either way, we undercharge, get some extra energy off farming the Typhlosion down. And now they've got a Dragalge that they're going to bring in. And Dragalge, it does well against Scrafty. It's resisting the counters, but as you can see, the Foul Plays do chunk away respectably. And Scrafty's pretty bulky. It can take those Dragon Tails, so they are going to have to throw moves to take us out here. We're not going to shield. It's just an Aqua Tail. It's definitely not enough. So we're going to get another Foul Play off, and this will get Dragalge probably in Mudshot farm down range. So we're going to swap out straight away. This is probably an Aqua Tail, so it's going to do a reasonable chunk. It's a little bit unfortunate. We did misjudge how much energy they had there, and they've got a Lugia in the back. Nothing they can do against the Galarian Stunfisk with Lugia. That's going to be our win. GG. The great thing about this team is that most Pokemon on this team can put in a lot of work given shields, because Drifblim can build up those debuffs if you give it shields. Stunfisk is incredibly strong, and Scrafty can ramp up its damage to ridiculous levels. Now here is a great lead for Drifblim, and that is Nidoqueen. Now Drifblim is massively resisting these poison jabs, it's resisting the poison fountain, as you can see, doing very, very little. And yes, that damage is going to start adding up, but also you can throw Icy Winds at this thing. We weren't sure how much damage a Shadow Ball would do, so we did throw Shadow Ball straight away. But Shadow Ball does not one-shot a Nidoqueen in Ultra League, so what you want to do is just go for Icy Winds, because 2 Icy Winds will take out a Nidoqueen, and if you land a Shadow Ball, you probably still need to land an Icy Wind. Unless they're shielding like this, so the hexes are starting to add up, but as you can see, it's still not enough to take them out, and we're going to take quite a bit of damage if we try to farm them down. These Poison Fangs are adding up, and our defense is getting pretty low at this point. So the Nidoqueen could choose to shield this and would take switch advantage in this match. They choose not to, they're already down 1 shield. But yeah, against the Nidoqueen lead, just go straight Icy Wind. You can build up to the Shadow Ball if you want before you throw, that's fine, but I do recommend you just throw Icy Winds at it. Now they've got a Kingdra that they farm our Drifblim down with, and we've got to bring in Scrafty to this thing. The counters are neutral, and anything that counters neutral to is going to start adding up over time. The Foul Plays hit for good chunks of neutral damage. They do Octazookeras, but we just don't want Galarian Stunfisk to see this. Galarian Stunfisk does okay because it's resisting the Dragon Breaths, but the Octazookeras will start to chip away, and Kingdra is quite bulky. They've got a Scizor in the back, and this is looking pretty good for us. Galarian Stunfisk does pretty well against Scizor. I think Scizor really has to use Night Slash to do good damage, and as you can see, the Night Slash does not take out our Scrafty there. That is absolutely wild. We get a shield out of them with a power-up punch, and now we just go straight for an Earthquake to take them out, and they're going to surrender. That's going to be a GG, and another 4-1 set with this team back to back. Now, as a quick side note, if you're having bad leads with Drifblim on this team, you can swap Drifblim and Scrafty round and put Scrafty on the lead and keep Drifblim in the back. Drifblim makes a very strong safe swap alongside Galarian Stunfisk, can be a very strong close with the Shadow Balls and the Icy Wind debuffs, and Scrafty is a very effective lead for shutting down things like Jellicents and Umbreons if you're running into them. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, what do you do about a Galvantula lead? You swap into Scrafty. You can't bring in Galarian Stunfisk, it's your best answer to Galvantula, and a Galvantula lead definitely has a hard punish somewhere on its line for a Galarian Stunfisk. So the best thing you can do is bring in Scrafty. You can comfortably take at least one lunge. If they've got a bunch of energy, you can survive two, but then the Volt Switchers will farm you down. We've got quite a bit of lag here in this matchup. We're going to throw the foul play straight away, get a shield out of them, and I think we're going to shield this to get off this second foul play. No, we're not, we're going to let it go. Okay, that's fine. We're going to bring in Galarian Stunfisk and just start building up some energy. We can take this lunge. It's going to be a lunge, it's not going to be a discharge. It's going to hit for a little bit of a chunk, I guess. The Volt Switches are double resisted, so they're doing almost nothing to us. We're going to build up to nearly 100 energy, throw the Rock Slide before they throw another lunge just to take them out. And we can clear this debuff by swapping to Drifblim if we decide to. It depends what they bring in. They bring in a Politoed, so that is their hard answer to Galarian Stunfisk right there. It's pretty tough for us, and as you can see, we'll land the Earthquake. It's debuff, so it doesn't quite hit for half. Swap out into Drifblim, and they've got a Galarian Stunfisk. We're ahead on energy, and we've got a shield advantage. So we're going to shield the first Rock Slide, and then I think, yeah, we're going to go for the Icy Wind, debuff them, just make the next Rock Slide hit a little softer, and then probably go for a Shadow Ball next, maybe? I'm going to build up to a Shadow Ball, maybe throw another Icy Wind, we'll see. We figure that these Rock Slides are worth shielding because Drifblim has got to do a lot of work here. We're hoping they don't shield this. This will get them pretty low, and we'll put them in Icy Wind range, which puts a lot more pressure on them to give us that last shield. We actually overcharge, which is a little unfortunate. We should have thrown the Icy Wind straight away there, but I think we're figuring we want to build up a lot of energy, and this Stunfisk had a lot of energy as well to dump into us. This is a big misjudgment call because they've been able to get that energy off, and now they're not pressured to shield this because they can just bring in the Politoed, save the shield for that, and put a lot of work in. They've already got a Weather Ball, and this wouldn't have KO'd us if we hadn't have taken those two Rock Slides, and also if we'd have got the shield out of them by throwing that Icy Wind before they threw, we could have gone straight for an Earthquake here and definitely knocked out this Politoed, because you can survive one and maybe two Weather Balls with Galarian Stunfisk from a Politoed. Like, it does chip away at you very fast, but you can survive those moves as well, and in a zero shield scenario you can put some work in. So a misplay by us by just overcharging and just not throwing the Icy Winds as soon as we had them against that Stunfisk there. But good game. A tough lead, but we just played it wrong. Now, Alolan Sandslash is kind of a spicy pick in the Ultra League. It's got some nice coverage with that Ice Punch and the Bulldoze, and we're going to save swap into our Galarian Stunfisk. Galarian Stunfisk threatens heavily with the Earthquake and the Rock Slide. If it does hit us with a Bulldoze, you see it does good damage, but it's not going to take us out. They have to land two to take us out, so we're the one threatening in this matchup, and we're safe swapping Galarian Stunfisk because Scrafty, the counters are double super effective against an Alolan Sandslash, so we would do monumental damage with the counter, so we can just shred through them rather than having to land big heavy hitting charge moves with Stunfisk in endgame against it. They bring in a Gyarados, and we get a little greedy with energy and have to shield an Aqua Tail before we can throw a Rock Slide, but by shielding their Aqua Tail we can get to two Rock Slides, so we're either going to get the shield back or we're going to get switch advantage, which is amazing. Getting that switch advantage is absolutely beautiful for us because you're going to see the work that Scrafty does to a Sandslash. If they don't shield this, well, if they shield, they're going to throw it, yeah, so we're going to let this go. It's not worth shielding for that energy because of the amount of energy Scrafty can build up in this matchup. They've got a Nidoqueen in back. Now we can line Drifblim up to this, and as we're going to see, it's going to be straight Icy Wind spam. This is the right way to play Drifblim against Nidoqueen because it does 50, yeah, you see it does about 50% there, and then even if it doesn't quite take them out, you can then farm them down with hexes and have a bit of energy for whatever comes in next. So this is a very dominant position. There's not really anything this opponent can actually do. At this point they'd need some very fancy catching play and some very well placed shields, I think, to be able to flip this game around. We're building up a lot of energy here. We don't want the Sandslash to farm us down, and we were conscious of them trying to catch, really. So we wanted to build 2 Icy Winds here. We do get the shield out of this Nidoqueen. They swap into Sandslash. We're going to bring in Scrafty, and look at this. Look at that damage those 2 counters did. Absolutely smashing it to pieces. We're going to take this Ice Punch. It can't one-shot us with any of its moves. We don't need to shield. We can just farm this down and then take out the Nidoqueen. We're not even going to need the energy that we banked on the Drifblim at all here. Not much this Nidoqueen can do, and they're going to surrender. Good game. That's a great thing about this team and those interesting typings, is that every Pokemon on this team can really hardwall certain picks in the meta. Drifblim hardwalls so many things, and Scrafty hardwalled so many things. Now here's a tough lead, and that's Gengar. If Gengar does pretty damn well against Drifblim, Galarian Stunfisk and Scrafty both do better against Gengar because Scrafty's resisting the ghost moves, and the foul play would probably one-shot a Gengar, and the Rock Slide spam as well as the adding up Mudshot damage as well from Galarian Stunfisk. So we're going to swap to Scrafty. They bring in an Escavalier, and they let the foul play through, so we can farm them down, we can take switch advantage. It's definitely worth giving up a shield to get switch advantage in this situation. They've got a Tangroath, and this is kind of scary. Tangroath is an underrated pick in the Ultra League because it's building up a lot of energy, and Tangroath has access to Rock Slide, and Rock Slide does very well against Drifblim. It's going to hit us pretty hard, but they're not wanting to commit the shields, I guess, when they simultaneously KO. They wanted the farm down, they didn't get it. So now, because they've only down to 1 Pokemon, we're going to bring in Drifblim, not shield, and throw an Icy Wind to debuff it. It's just a Shadow Punch, so we do actually survive it, and this is just going to secure that we're in a strong enough position for Galarian Stunfisk to deal with this Gengar. There is a chance, if they're running Focus Blast and they manage to get it through, that they would absolutely annihilate us here, but not many Gengars in the Ultra League are going to be running Focus Blast. Most are running Shadow Ball or Sludge Bomb as their nuke, and they throw a Shadow Ball, hits us for 50% of our health, which is, you know, good damage, and then they bait us with Shadow Punch, but they're pretty much energy dry at this point, or they've got a couple of Shadow Claws worth of energy, but we've got 2 Rock Slides. Throw one, get the shield, throw the second, take it out, and that's going to be a good game. Scrafty showing its worth as a very strong safe swap there, being able to handle the Escavalier. A lot of opponents expect you to throw a power-up punch, and that foul play just does enough damage where you can then outpace the counter damage when you commit a shield to actually control switch advantage. Benito Juarez standing up. We've got 2 matches left, and here we've got a Dragonite lead, a Shadow Dragonite. And you might think this is a very dominant matchup for Drifblim because the Icy Winds will one-shot, and yes, the Icy Winds will one-shot, but look at how much that Dragon Tail damage is doing to us, and those Dragon Claws would also do monumental damage to us as well. So we have to shield, and we have to commit a shield first. The Dragonite's going to shield and then swap out to an Abomasnow, and this is very, very nice for us because we can get Scrafty onto this, get ahead on energy, get ahead on health. We'll be able to take this thing out and control switch pretty comfortably. We take an Energy Ball, it does hit pretty hard, and we're not going to Power-Up Punch, we're going to Foul Play. So this is going to do a big chunk of damage and actually let us counter down without having to shield. If you throw a Power-Up Punch, yeah, you're going to be amped up, but you're going to have to commit a shield to the next Energy Ball or Weather Ball, and you're kind of risking losing switch there. So we're just going to throw the Foul Play, take it out, and now we've got a Foul Play to throw against the Dragonite. This is going to hit for good damage. Dragonite's very squishy. Look at that, hitting for around 60%, and we almost farmed them down with counter, but now the Dragonite's got a load of energy. So we're just going to bring in Stunfisk, absorb whatever they're going to throw. We want to save that shield. We don't want Drifblim to get wiped out. They've got a Kingdra in the back, so this is a double Dragon strategy, and we're going to swap straight out to Drifblim. We're just going to throw Icy Winds at this. I don't think we're going to shield anything that the Kingdra throws. We might do if we get close to a... we're very close to a Shadow Ball here, so it might be worth a shield. Bit of a gamble. We shouldn't get farmed down before we get to throw this move. Yeah, get the Shadow Ball. This is going to do monumental damage, and then the Stunfisk is going to be able to clean this game up. You see, we are debuffed from the Octazooka, which is pretty unfortunate because it really does affect how hard you can hit. So we are actually really praying that this isn't going to debuff us, and it does. So now we've been debuffed on Stunfisk as well. The Dragonite comes in, and we're going to throw the Rock Slide because the Dragonite's pretty close to another move, we think. and we know that the Kingdra's fairly low on energy. Now we just got to try and get to this Earthquake before they get to an Octazooka. We just get to it. This hopefully is going to be enough to take it out. It's going to be very close. That Octazooka debuff is dangerous. It does take them out. We take the win. GG. So as you can see, a very, very strong team, and Drifblim and Scrafty can be even stronger if you've got XLs to dump into PvP IV spread variants of those two Pokemon. I'm going to leave you with this last matchup in which we make some dramatic misjudgments. And thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you're not subscribed, hit the button. It's free. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend, and I will catch you guys next time.